Guys, I think I'm back. I'll give it a second to refresh, but I apologize for that. We had an OBS crash. No, it's not fun. I'll flip back to the other machine. I really need to get another monitor happening. But like I said, I'm moving, so that will happen when I move. Okay, I'm back. Okay, so it looks like I'm back anyway. I'm just gonna refresh on YouTube. Okay. Anyway, I hope this is helpful. These are all been really great. Just tiny little things. So what I might do now is I might what time is it? Oh, it's up there. Duh. All right, I have some time. Let me see if I can't pull open a mix. Put that back where it belongs. And let me that should be, probably leave that open because that should be fine. Let's pull open. Oh, actually, we'll set you to that just so that you don't override. And we'll turn this on. Yep, I'm back, Adrian. I hope that was helpful just to go listen to some things and pick out some things. And I just kind of want to see if I can't articulate a few of the things that I was talking about with the mix here real quick. If you have any questions, please post them in the comments in the chat. I think I'm going to pull open that mix that I was working on Monday because it'll be easy just to mess around with. It's such a small session, so it's just easy to jump around in. That was that one, I believe. So we'll open. Oh, I may have to fix one quick thing here because I don't know. I don't see that the magnify thing is working. No, it is. Doesn't appear to be. Oh, here we go. There we go. That's what it is. All right, you guys should see that now. So let's do this. Let's see what levels we're talking about here. 7, 9, so 8. I knew that was going to be a thing. Stand by. Hey. Okay, so cool. So actually, so on this Christmas tree, you'll see it looks like a Christmas tree, and we're going full left and right with some content. But you'll see this low end. Cool. There's a few things that I was talking about with some of those. So you'll see this. What you're seeing right now, as it dies down, it's just the electrical noise in the system, but. So you'll see that the low end is staying right down the center, and then we flare out as we get into the melodic areas, and we've got some width. Now, I think in this particular mix, so here's 2 stereo guitars. Cool. Now, they aren't fully hard left and right. I mean, we could. I mean, it works just fine. But I'm not looking at any visuals here, right? Also, when I do this center, sort of pad a little into the center thing, I have the ability at front of the house to grab this middle fader and push it up and take over the stereo field for a solo or something for that guitar. Obviously, these tracks are nice and wide. And I didn't mix these tracks. These are probably from one of those sources, but you'll see the same thing, right? So here's some pre-produced content, and you're seeing similar types of stereo field things going on. So this is probably the guitar. Yep. So I've only got a couple of these melody vocals out wide. Oh, we look down, set our eyes on our Savior, see the image of love. And again, you can see I got some width down there. This is stereo pair ambience mics on stage. Probably a little off balance here, which is pretty easy to fix in the DAW anyway. On a console I would do this with just the gain knobs, but where are you? Should be under here. There it is. So our left side's just a little too hot. Think. Oh, that's why. Alright, fat finger, guys. It won't do that when it's playing. It won't release the sides. And you can see that the whole Christmas tree shifts back over to the line on center when I pull down just a little. And of course, it's ambience mic, so it's always going to be steered a little bit weird depending on who's singing what when. The other thing I want you to notice is, so these are, I mean, I'm using this meter as a tool to tell me things about my mix, but I'm not trusting it to be in place of my ears. See this bass guitar? It's got a, there's the note, there's the octave. Cool. And then I'll add the kick to it. See how it sits and floats just above the kick drum? And it stays pretty consistent. So that's what we're looking for. We're looking for some consistency. Now, I am using in-ears, so there's a certain amount of, in-ears are doing what in-ears do. But if I wanted to maybe... where are you? Here's a little bit of mastering for you, right? So go Pro. Where are you? Here it is. Okay. So when I find it. Can even move this down a little. Keep it nice and flat. You know, in a live environment, you get a curve that's a little bit more like this, but in a mix, usually, if you go listen to a bunch of music and stuff, you'll start to see that the mixes are pretty well balanced all the way across. In terms of, you know, when you meter them stuff. But this is what you're looking for overall is your low section, your mid section, your high section. I look for like really tiny sections of those sections. You just want to see it. So if you have like a real low, rolled off low end and or rolled off top end or elevated top end, probably good indication something needs to be addressed. But yeah. So this mixer is pushing, what is that, 18? I can't really read, that's too far away. Yep, 16. So the other thing about this mix now, I'm not hearing what you're hearing on stream. I'm only hearing what's coming off of Pro Tools. But let's look at this, right? So on the kick drum, let's buzz through. So this compressor, at the most extreme, this is going 6 dB. Usually it's around 4 or 5. Same with this one too. Snare. Somewhere in that ballpark, a little more. Snare bottom's got a lot more because we're doing some creative control. The overheads. Okay. Bringing it into balance, keeping it a good picture. About 3 dB. Our bass is getting hammered pretty hard. And that's okay as long as you're, you know, depending on if they're clacking or not. So maybe you want a little bit more of the thump from the bass to come through. I want more of the thump from the kick drum. And we're getting off of it fairly quickly. But we're holding it down. We're not really doing any compression on the guitars because they're guitars, electric guitars. And we're not actually compressing the keys either, so they're fairly consistent. I do touch the tracks sometimes because the tracks can get a little out of control. Now look at this. This gain reduction meter is actually a combination of all the gain reduction I have on the vocal, so it's not just one compressor. But let's go through it real quick, right? Like we were talking about the other night. This is our lead vocal, so he's a very good vocalist. He knows what he's doing. He knows how to control his volume, knows how to control his mic technique. So we're doing 6 at the max here. And he doesn't have anything but, we got, okay, so we got our Vox here. There's 3, this is about 3 dB here. Slower, more smooth compression. And then this is the aggressive compressor. Now again, if you try to do this much compression live, you're going to be inevitably bringing the noise floor so far up, you're going to feedback. But this is broadcast, right? This happens to be recorded, so I'm not even worried about that too. But what I'm trying to show you is, like, vocals are super dynamic. They're jumping around stage usually. They can be real quiet, real loud, so they're getting a lot more compression. The drums they jump around a little bit, but they're relatively consistent, and I'm keeping them in a sort of in the box that I want to keep them in a little bit, in a dynamic window. And the bass, I need that bass to stay consistent and solid, and with the kick drum, and that one is pretty dynamic with how they play. So I'm hitting him harder. So I'm putting everybody sort of in the dynamic box that allows my fingers to do the movements rather than the dynamic changes in volume between note to note. That kind of compression combined makes it possible for me to hit the mix with. I actually don't even think I'm using that compressor. This little trick here when I'm explaining what I was doing. So I'm compressing about 1.5, maybe a little less than that dB of the low end, and then I'm bringing it up by the same amount to lift the low end without pushing into my limiter too much, right? I don't want those kick transients to push my limiter too much. But then I've got sort of a mix compressor. We're not even hitting 3 dB. Okay. And we could get a little bit more, we can get a little bit more SSL with this, right? So for the sake of this, I'm going to copy it because I'm not hating where it's at, but so if I did, so let's do the standard, right? Let's do the standard. So 30 and 100. Okay. Versus so I mean you let some of that punch can come through and let it come off. This is probably more along the lines of what I might do for a live stream because you have a window to hit, and then I'm limiting it, right? And look at where the threshold is. It's just below the average. But look at how much reduction I'm getting. 6. A couple of those real fast transients are a little harder. And then I'm bringing it up on the game where I need it to sit. Now, if I go harder on this limiter, I'm going to start crushing things together a little too much, and I'm going to start running out of room. But that's managing the compression. So a lot of what I was hearing in a lot of the streams that I was listening to was it's the result of having a single console and trying to generate your live stream mix from a single console and work with your room and stuff. So typically what you'll see people do is they'll compress it really, really hard to keep their worship in line, and then bring their game back up and everything and try to match everything that way. But you wind up crushing too much for your worship and not enough for your speaking, or the speaking might not limit enough, and you're a little too close to the top of your bus there, so the speaker might distort the bus. So that's what I was explaining a little bit before. If you don't have the ability to do this on a separate console or a DAW and control where everything is, you could do some of these things live. Like you can put some of these compression techniques into your live mix, and it will help them, and it will help your broadcast mix as well. But if you're running one console and for whatever reason these types of techniques won't work for your room, then you need to start looking at pulling your live stream mixes, balancing them out to be more, all of your worship tracks to be down at -15 and everything, so that your worship doesn't compress much harder and sound terrible. It sounds more open and more natural. So I hope that's helpful. We're coming up on 7 o'clock. Actually, it is 7 o'clock. So if you guys have any questions, now would be the time to get them in as I wind down a little bit for the night and go get some dinner. Lunch and dinner, because I didn't need anything for lunch. Okay, so Lee. Hey, Lee. How you doing? This particular one is a Flux Pure Analyzer. So give me 2 shakes of a lamb's tail. My mouse is there. Let's do this. So if you go here, okay, so this is Flux Pure Analyzer. When you buy Flux Pure Analyzer, just so everybody knows, it basically it comes with the essential pack. Okay, so some of the meters that I'm currently using are in some of the other packs. So there's a live add-on, there's a metering add-on, and there's a multi-channel add-on. I happen to own all of them because that's I need it for a lot of the work that I do. But you can see here on the essential that you get like your let's go basic metering, so peak metering, ballistic RMS, fully customizable scales, ballistic, your phase meter, which is that right here, phase meter. This is the reason it looks different is because they're actually metering a synth, so it's got some interesting characteristics. But you get that spectrograph, which is, everybody's seen a spectrograph. It's that colored rainbow that scrolls up. The vector scope, actually that's a vector scope. The phase meter is this right under here. They get the nebula stereo. That's what that Christmas tree is. We call it the Christmas tree. Unique spectrum over space scope, which I think is the same thing as the nebula. Not entirely sure, but let's see. Or maybe it's one I don't even know about. I think they're calling some of these things the same thing, because an oscilloscope, I call that a oscilloscope. I call it a vector scope. This unique spectrum, so they may be just using some fancy marketing here, but the live add-on will give you LEQ, which is a little bit more of time-based SPL readout, multi-channel reference support, multi-microphone support. Meters are fully customizable. That's pretty ubiquitous across the whole platform. SPL signal generator, so a little bit, you can tell it's a little bit more, if there's a transfer function, a little bit more like Smart. Doesn't have a lot of the features that Smart does, but it's a lot like Smart. They do have snapshots and things like that, so you could set this up to work like Smart. The metering and loudness, which I think is really beneficial. So if you get the essential and the metering and loudness, you can see some of your LKFS. You get your R128 support. You can see your true peak when the digital to analog converter will distort after it converts to analog. It tries to give you, none of that is super accurate. That never is on any platform, but it'll give you pretty good approximation. So here's what I think. So the multi-channel surround. Okay, so here you get some multi-channel surround. You get support for like 5.1 and 7.1 and things like that, which I'm not so sure that a lot of people need right now. So I'd look for the I'd buy the essential and I'd buy the metering for broadcast. You don't really need the live add-on unless you want it, but that's that. A little spendy, yes. So let's do that, right? Let's buy that one. And you can see that it is 400. And then if you add on, let's go back to the metering. So it's another 200. So it's 400 and 200. So $600. But it's a very, very good meter. And I'm able to pick up my interface, or I'm able to run from Pro Tools or my DAW. They have this little sample grabber, so you can pull it right off there and have it. It runs as a separate application, which is fantastic. Now, before you go run out and buy that, I do have to give you a word of caution, because there is always this. So look at the price on this. This has gone up in price because of supply chain reasons and things like that. But so this meter here is fantastic. It is not software. Okay, it is hardware. Comes with a break-in, breakout cable. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it will also do USB. Yeah, so I think you can get USB audio into this, but I'm not sure. Let me find USB. Yep, there you go. I believe that does work. Correct me if anybody has that and I'm wrong. This is a fantastic. This is an absolutely fantastic meter. Sits on the desktop. You can pack it up in your bag. I think this folds down. You can pack it up in your bag, take it with you. I apologize if this is loud. I will try to shut it up. Okay, so this is TC Electronics loudness radar that you see here that will show you your loudness over time, and in this circle here will be your target to stay within. It's fantastic that way. Obviously you have your meters and things like that, but if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to buzz through. So here you go. Here you got your left right sort of phase scope. So let's buzz through some more, because I believe that this one will do. There you go. It's got an FFT in it. So it's RTA, sorry, real-time analyzer. Oh, here you go. Here's your oscilloscope. But, basic information to get you going. Obviously, it doesn't have all the information that Flux does. And then the only other one I recommend is the iZotope. Let's see if I get this right. Insight. iZotope Insight is the other one I recommend. Yes, Clarity M is great. Lee Clarity M is a great one. Insight, I don't know, why is it asking me for cookies? I don't want cookies. Anyway, so here it is. So Insight 2 has, I've updated. I need to update. This looks a lot better than it used to look. So it is a metering suite. Sorry, my dog is barking. And it's pretty powerful. It has a lot of presets. Insight 2, $200. Okay. And it's included in a bunch of the other bundles that they have. They've got some pretty good plugins, but this is a really nice one. It will do, I believe it will do True Peak, but it will also do your, your loudness metering and all that other stuff. It's a nice one. Not as pretty as a Flux. Flux is definitely the king of them, but it's another great one to have, and it operates as a plugin. Doesn't I believe it also has a standalone, but mostly I use it as a plugin. So worth looking at. Definitely worth considering.